Welcome to another thrilling episode of the Triple Podunk Polymath Podcast. This is episode 92 of the thrilling Southern slang extravaganza. This week I have with me somebody that's guess what? They've been my Facebook friend a while. I know that seems to be a recurring theme, but yeah, that's where I have a good network, man. I have a good network. What can I say? He was actually on. I'm sorry, I was on his show about a year and a half ago. He had a show for a little while. And I was like, that's pretty early. I was second guess. I can't remember. But anyway, and we're gonna be having a conversation about some neo-Nazi shit. So, all right, man. Well, if you will welcome Jason Rigsby. How's it going, Jason?
It's going pretty good. I go by Casper for most everybody out there.
Fuck, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all good. Facebook took my name, so now you only see me as Jason because Facebook are douchebags.
What'd they do? Because I remember it was up there, Casper.
Yeah, somebody filed a fake name report with Facebook,
Um,
and they uh, said I couldn't use Casper anymore because it's a nickname and not my official name. So I'm gonna fuck them over, and I'm gonna go get my middle name changed to Casper, and then be like, "No, it's my fucking name. Fuck y'all, give me my name back."
that's jacked up. Uh, anyway, so why don't you tell everybody more about yourself, sir?
Well, let's see. I grew up in a very Christian household. My grandfather is a minister for the Church of Christ. I, however, was adopted into that family, so was not born into it, and had a lot of um, emotional issues after that adoption and whatever, and got into a lot of shit as a kid. Got in a lot of trouble. Ended up just not feeling like I felt like I belonged anywhere, and I met some folks that said, "Hey, you belong with us." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because your skin's white." And kind of kicked off from there. Um, I got involved with the Aryan Nation at, let's see, 15 years old. Um, and basically, I got into it because like I felt like nothing was right around me. I was living in Georgia at the time, right outside Atlanta. I felt like nothing was going right, and these people kept saying, "Hey, it's not your fault. It's not our fault that shit's going wrong. It's all these damn minorities. It's all these Jews and the blacks and all these other folks and the gays. They're out here ruining everything for everybody, and that's why you can't have a decent life." And you know, it it sounds it sounds appealing. Um, when you just want to find some sort of scapegoat, some way out for your issues to say, "Oh yeah, it's these other people's fault. It's not my fault. I didn't have anything to do with it." It's not corporate America out here fucking me over and telling me I should hate my fellow man because they'd rather see us fighting each other than fighting them. That's not a possibility at all. It's got to be the black man over there who lives in the projects, and yeah, he's slinging dope all the time, and he's the one ruining my fucking life. It's his fault. Um, so it was kind of easy to get drawn into is like sort of a second family or a first family for somebody who felt like they didn't have a family. It quickly deteriorated though.
Well, yeah, I was gonna backtrack a little bit. I mean, of course, you were in this situation. How long were you in it?
Um,
Approximately
about 3 years.
3 years. And of course, we've seen kind of the emboldening of the white nationalism in or white supremacy in the country as since Donald Trump has got elected. Of course, it's always been there. Anybody in the South already knows that, and probably anybody in like Idaho and those strongholds like that. But um, and that's why I was interested in having you on to talk about this because I felt like it was something that people had heard about but didn't really know a whole lot about. So, to get back to what you were saying, it sounds like like any other kind of tribal cult thing going on, that they kind of prey on like people who are lost, kind of lonely, kind of outcast types, and kind of give you a way out or feeling of a group or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I liken it to gang membership, just like any sort of street gang or anything like that. Granted, the their nation is much more organized. They actually act as a fucking organization. They're protected by the U.S. government under religious protection laws, while at the same time being listed by the FBI as a domestic terrorist organization. Same as the KKK. Um, so it's a slightly different thing compared to gang life, street gangs and stuff, but the general recruitment tactics and everything along those lines very similar, very similar. You look for people who um, feel like outcasts, feel misplaced, feel like they don't belong somewhere, and you give them a sense of purpose. You say, "Hey, here's a thing you can do. You will feel accomplished. You will feel like you're part of something." So it's really easy to draw people in, especially young people. Um, they're, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, their
That's
recruitment
cool.
tactics really focus a lot on the youth. Um, Same as Hitler. If you get them young, then you can sort of indoctrinate and implant those ideas and get them to seed a little bit better. At least is the thought process.
Yeah, I mean, and religion. If we're being honest about it, religion is similar, or any organization like that. You get them; they know you get them young, and you can indoctrinate them.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's easy to give them an idea and make all sorts of garbled, just half-ass bullshit excuses why those ideas are correct. And someone that's young and impressionable, they don't really question how deep those ideas, what their foundation is based on, whether they have a solid foundation, whether there's any validity to them. At 15 years old, I wasn't looking at socioeconomic policies. I wasn't looking at things like systemic racism. I wasn't looking at things like how poverty affects crime, how lack of education affects crime. I wasn't looking at all those things at 15 years old. None of that was in my wheelhouse at all. Now, the older people in the organization, of course, they knew. They understand all these realistic numbers that show that the real problem has nothing to do with race or anything other than corporate greed and a personal inability for us on an individual level to just get along with our fellow man. Yeah,
what was the name of the specific organization that you were with?
the Aryan Nation. They for
Okay,
Yeah, during the '90s, they were probably one of the biggest white supremacist groups in the country. They're still a very big group, and one of the reasons they're so big is because their membership members numbers are actually unknowable. Um, you have your general foot soldiers and people that are just happily, get tattoos and everything, just proclaim their fucking uh, Nazi leanings to the world. But that's just the front. That's the face. That's the thing that we see on occasion, like Charlottesville popping its head up. What we don't see is the things that have brought us Trump, um,
yeah.
because he is a game changer for organizations like the Aryan Nation and other white supremacists. Because what the Aryan Nation has been trying to do since I was in the organization is put elected officials in office who are members. So I what I actually did for the organization half the time was try to get fucking people elected to the sheriff's office, the DA, um, judges positions, all sorts of positions that are elected positions where people don't realize that the guy you're voting for is a fucking Nazi. You have no clue because these people are out here. They're not gonna say it on camera. They're not gonna just be upfront about it. I mean, a couple of them apparently are now, but no, the end game for them is to take over, and they can't do that through just outright violence. It's got to be sort of a fascist movement. the way that the Nazis rose to power in Germany. And Trump is, man, he is a trumpet call for that rise to fascism, that rise to a very Nazi-esque takeover of the United States, and that is what they want, and that is the end game.
Let me ask you specifically because Aryan Nation is fairly popular, or I've watched tons of fucking neo-Nazi white supremacist stuff.
Well, real quick, more than likely, what you've seen are documentaries on the Aryan Brotherhood, which is actually a prison gang that is not related with the
No,
Aryan Nation.
okay,
Uh,
well, okay. How about you just give me a
yeah,
brief description?
so the Aryan Brotherhood is a prison gang that started in Southern California, and it is a white supremacist group, but it's mostly relegated to prison. They don't have much of a presence outside of prisons. The Aryan Nation is a Christian identity group that's been around since fuck, I think the 40s or 50s. And so they labeled themselves as Christian identitarians, and they then got involved in some pretty devious domestic terrorist acts. So there's a listing even on Wikipedia of some of the terrorist acts committed by Aryan Nations members. There's
Yeah,
uh,
is it the disc jockey who got murdered? Is that Aryan
yeah,
Nation?
that was an Aryan Nation hit. Yeah.
Yeah. And they got their compound seized as restitution. If I don't know if that was a specific case, but I think it was another one. There's probably a couple different ones.
Yeah, there was three pretty high profile cases that you can go back and look at. I say high profile, not high profile by today's standards, but high profile by those standards of the '90s and you know um, '80s.
Okay, so yeah, Christian identitarian, and are they still listed as a IRS officially as a religion? Oh,
Yeah, they're protected as a religious organization.
hmm. I thought they kicked him out by now, but I guess if fucking Scientology's still there, I guess anybody can fucking be, you know.
Right, right. Their whole excuse is that they can't be held accountable for the acts of individual members. That they, as an organization, do not promote violence or hatred or intolerance. That they are simply a Christian identitarian group who believe in separatist ideals. That's how
And let's
they,
talk.
yeah, that's how they build themselves. That's not what they really are, but that's how they project themselves to be.
Let's go back. Do you know a brief history of Aryan Nation, how it was founded, and all that?
Um, no, we don't. We didn't talk much about the history of the organization. Most of my experience with the organization was, you know, I would say like miniature, a little bit more amped up Trump rallies. Um, we would have, bonfire rallies and stuff, and it would just be everybody getting together, and you listen to, some guy from some other state that's like big in the organization. He comes and he tells you a bunch of shit about, um, how all the blacks and the Jews are ruining everything, and we got to take out the gays, and we got to hold it all down. Um, so that was more of my experience. We didn't. Uh, if you even tried to really delve into the history of the organization, they got a little bit sketchy about that because, I mean, unless you're a high-ranking member, they expect people to try and infiltrate them and find out information, and then, you know, get people hemmed up, especially public officials that are trying to run for office and are still part of the organization.
Yeah. Just I'm just doing a brief little thing. What it says on here on Wikipedia, just a brief. It just says it's anti-Semitic neo-Nazi white supremacist terrorist organization that was originally based in Hayden, Idaho. Richard Gurntz Butler founded the group in the 70s as an arm of the Christian Identity Organization Church of Jesus Christ Christian. The FBI has called Aryan Nations a terrorist threat, and the Rand Corporation says it's the first truly nationwide terrorist network in the U.S.
Yep.
So that is kind of a brief what it is as far as.
And we have to realize also that that organization was big in the '90s, and the current atmosphere, an organization like that might play a lot of part behind the scenes, but what we're seeing out front, a lot of this high profile stuff is a pretty different monster. It's foot soldiers. Um, the younger kids that can be sent out to do insane, terrible shit. That can be incited to do insane, terrible shit without much real provocation or what we would consider incitement. A leader doesn't have to go out and say, "Hey, go kill a trans woman in Louisiana," but they can make the case that, hey, maybe trans people should die, and their foot soldiers will go carry that out. That will be something they do, or at least attempt to do.
Yeah, that's always been something that's they try to go. They try this plausible deniability shit. Well, we didn't tell them to do it. If they did it on their own, we don't have any control over that. Even though
Yeah,
their doctrine pretty much is hate everything, especially LGBT, Jews, people of color, stuff like that. Even fucking Catholics a lot of times.
yeah. Any non-whites specifically, Catholics are considered non-Christians or false Christians within some ranks, almost satanic. Um, so yeah, Catholics are pretty much despised. Oddly enough, one of their biggest targets are people like me, um, what they call race traders. Um, so,
Apostate.
yeah. Apparently, I'm a traitor to my race because I think that all people should be treated equally, and because I have black friends and trans friends and gay friends, and I hang out with these people and I talk mad shit about how Nazis are terrible and how white people shouldn't be such pieces of shit half the fucking time and might need to have a little bit of introspection. Yeah, all those things make me a bigger target for them than even just a regular black guy or a Jew or a trans person or anything else out on the streets. Like because I am actively working against them and I used to be with them and I'm supposed to be with them according to them. So yeah, they really don't like people like me.
Let's examine your arc of how you got to the point you're at now. So you got into the organization originally, right?
Hmm.
As like a disaffected outcast, the people they usually prey on, right?
Hmm.
And from there, kind of tell me how things started and how you were, I guess, in gung ho, and then kind of go from there and what happened.
Well, it started out when I first got brought in. They used a lot of separatist rhetoric. So it was, oh, we don't hate blacks, Jews, or gays or anything, and we don't want to kill them or nothing. We just we think everybody should be separate and stay to themselves, and like everybody'd be better off if we did that because then you just take care of yourself and you don't have to worry about somebody else's problem fucking your day up. Sounds like a good pitch in general, especially if you're already a little disaffected. What happened over a course of 3 years was that speech went from, oh, we don't hate these people to, yeah, we kind of hate these people. And then it was, well, we don't want to kill these people. And it was like, well, I mean, if they die, whatever, they're not even human beings. And then it got to the point of, okay, see, the end game is we kill every fucking body on the planet who's not white. And then I'm like, whoa, okay. See, when we get into the point of, hey, let's go actually harm other people physically, I was at the point where, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like
Oh,
I felt a little disaffected. I felt like I wanted to blame somebody for my issues, but I'm not going to go hurt other people just because they're different than me. That's not what we were discussing at the beginning. So
oh,
I
so you
started digging. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, so you never were on board with the whole the violent part or whatever is what you're saying?
Oh no, no, I was not on board with violence at ever. It was always a we do us and you do you thing, and we can all just be separate but equal and live our lives, and we'll all be happier. That was the pitch that was given to me, and that was the pitch that I signed up for. Um, and that is not the fucking end game. That is not the reality of what they truly want.
Well, how long did it take you to realize that?
Well, it took me almost the full 3 years before I really started, because they start out and they just, you go to these little rallies. Like I said, you go to these little rallies and stuff, and they just get you pumped up and excited and stuff. And the real harsh rhetoric doesn't start coming out then when you first get in there. They build you up to that, and they hope that you're going to escalate with them because they're trying to escalate you with them. Um, and I wasn't going to be escalated. There's always been a point where I'm willing to go, yeah, no, I'm done. There's always got to be a line in the sand you're not willing to cross. Um, so
Well,
when I realized I wasn't willing to cross that line, I had to get out.
I find that very, I mean, your story seems to be a little more like, I'm done. Pretty quick. I mean, when you realize you're going to have to actually commit, I mean, 3 years. It seems like though they'd get you involved with the violent part before
Well,
that time.
the thing is, youth like I was between 15, 16, 17, really people that have the ability to talk, and I have a decent amount of charisma and the ability to talk to folks and the ability to relate information to folks and get people to kind of hear what I'm saying and get on board with me. So what they had me doing was basically fucking campaigning most of my time. I spent most of my
Or,
time campaigning to try and get other Aryans into office, so they could like ruin the world from the government inside out.
uh, you were PR kind of is
Yeah.
what yeah.
But you know, you send a 15-year-old to somebody's house campaigning for this judge and stuff, you know, like the people respond to that, and it works. I mean, it worked for them really well.
Well, did you succeed in getting anybody elected or anything?
It more than likely, uh, we were just sent out to actually do the canvassing and stuff. I didn't really pay attention to the election stuff. We saw people that would come um, and speak at the rallies, and they would tell us, "Hey, we got this guy in here, and we got that guy in here." So I'm absolutely certain I got a few people in there, or at least helped to get a few people in there, um, which is terrible.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really. You're manipulated. I mean, especially if you were that young. I would never, they brainwash people. I mean, if
Yeah, I'm big on personal responsibility, and I do feel like I should have paid better attention and clued myself into what was going on long before I did. Um, because it took me too long, even after leaving the organization, to let go of the bullshit that they had tried to indoctrinate me with. I didn't. It wasn't just because I left the organization and now I no longer um, have this animosity towards minorities or gay people or anything else. I still had those animosities even after leaving the organization. It's just
did,
I knew they were going to push me to a point I wasn't willing to cross.
did you have those feelings before you joined the organization?
Uh, you know, growing up in a Christian household, there was always an undercurrent of mild. I don't even know how to call it. I guess mild racism and
Yeah, I know.
mild homophobia. You know, it's just like we don't hate these people, but you know they're wrong, and God says they're going to burn in
Well,
hell.
I assume you're from a Southern Christian tradition or whatever.
Yeah, Church of Christ. Yeah,
Me too. Yeah, I was raised Church of Christ. Yeah, I'm well semi raised. But yeah, I know
yeah.
what you're. Yeah, there's always that kind of. Yeah, especially in the South. That shit you entered. Racism is intertwined with everything.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little, just a twinge of racism all around, and a twinge of homophobia all around. And they might not be mean to yeah, here in the South. People don't get that, man. People are always like, "Oh man, I went down to the South, and those folks were so polite and they're so nice." Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
we're assholes, man. That is the face we put on for y'all.
It's
That's
passive
not
aggressive.
our real face.
I
Like,
hate that. That's one thing I've always hated is the whole Southern hospitality bullshit. It's
yeah,
fucking passive aggressive bullshit, and I
it
can't.
really is.
I'd rather have some motherfucker tell me up to my face than to do some shit behind my back. That drives me crazy. But anyway, so yeah, we got the Southern kind of the tradition going on. As anybody who lives in the South probably already knows, you kind of already under, like you said, undercurrent of racism and homophobia, anything like that. So from that point, you kind of, I guess it wasn't that it's not that difficult to kind of launch into that kind of thought process that the Aryan nations has or
Yeah,
whatever.
when they bring around the separatist rhetoric and stuff, like that can be really persuasive, really enticing. Um, but it's just not the reality. It's I don't know. It took me a while after getting out of the organization to actually understand just how fundamentally fucked up the very ideal is. Like the very ideal of separatism and racism and homophobia, like those things. It took me quite a while for it really to set in, like how wrong all that was. Um, I went to jail at 17 as part of my way to get out. Um, and once I got out of jail, I walked away from everything and just hitchhiked across the country for almost a year. And during that time, I met everybody, just all walks of life, everybody I could possibly think to meet. And it really changed my perspective on people in general, on the people I supposedly was supposed to hate, the people who were supposedly ruining my life or ruining the lives of white people in this country. Um, and also came to meet a lot of the um, really shitty uh, not organizationally involved racists in this country. Um, and it's really disheartening because it's one thing to be involved organizationally with a group and you got pulled into it's a whole nother thing when it's just like, this is how I am. I hate these people because they don't look like me. um it just it baffles me. It baffles me how people can come to that mindset without being led there. And then maybe they are led there. Maybe it's indoctrination within families and everything else, but more than likely, it definitely is. Um, but how you can't look at it, once you're a grown ass adult, just look at it logically and go, yeah, that's not right. That's definitely something's off with that scenario there. It's not correct.
Well, most people, and I don't want to sound, like I'm better than people, but some people just don't question that much. And then they just stay in their lives and they stay in the same hometown they were in since they were born, and they never really think past that. And I think part of that is the lack of education. Not for their I mean, it's not their fault, they just never get that they of course, that's why they wanna keep people stupid, which is why you see red states have, education budgets that are always chronically shortchanged for that
Yeah.
reason, so they don't well, I don't it's red states in general, I think it's country in general, just wanna keep people stupid, you know?
Yeah, they've really, our government, and I don't know why they've done this really. I don't know if it's just a ploy to keep the corporate oligarchy rolling, or whether it's some deep-seated systemic racist shit, but there's a real undercurrent in our government to severely underfund rural and uh, low income education areas. Um, it's it's just that's where you get the base of these Trumpsters, these people that will believe anything that comes out of this dipshit's mouth, even when there is like a mountain of fucking evidence showing that that is absolute bullshit. They're just like, no, Trump said it, it's good. And like, how did you not get educated enough to be able to not be that dumb? Like, that's horribly dumb.
I mean, it's and education especially is a state by state thing. Really, if you want to get right down to it, really, it's a county by county thing. I mean,
And
they
it
can do
shouldn't
whatever.
be. It
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
be.
don't. I feel like it should be a federal mandate, but of course, states' rights.
Yeah.
Let me ask you: when has states' rights been brought up when it was something that was good? Come on, nobody.
But never, never. Nobody
I
ever
mean,
yells states' rights because we want to do, something really great for our people. I mean, I guess we could argue that like the states that have legalized marijuana or decriminalized it are kind of advocating for their states' rights to tell the federal government to go fuck themselves on a law that shouldn't be a law
yeah,
at all.
that's fair. That's fair. But I just feel like, I mean, but they don't use that term, and I feel like
No.
maybe it's tomato tomato, but I feel like it's that specific terminology to me. If you use states' rights, I've never heard it used in a positive, what I consider a positive manner.
Yeah, no, and you probably never will, because the states that assert state rights, these are the same states that seceded from the Union the first time. These are the states that started the fucking Civil War. Um, so it's never about a good thing. It's oh, we're gonna secede. We want our states' rights so we can fucking uh, abuse women and fucking take away their fucking rights and shit, or we're claiming states' rights so we can keep minorities from voting so we can fucking keep a Republican stronghold here, or any number of bullshit like that. It's never, we're asserting states' rights because the federal government's created this fucking law against these substances that are just harming our people and overcrowding our prisons, and it's stupid. So, states' rights, yeah, you're never going to hear that because what those states do, states like Colorado and other states that have decriminalized and done things along those nature, what they're trying to do is force the federal government's hand to just decriminalize it at a federal level. They're not trying to like say, oh, we're just going to do what we want to do and fuck you. It's more like, hey, we're going to do this and it's going to become a real problem for you that you're going to have to address. And hopefully you'll address it in the correct way of decriminalizing this shit and fixing people's lives that you've broken.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know.
Not in my
Everything's in
lifetime.
flux. Everything's so much in flux right now. I don't really know what the fuck's going to happen right now, to be honest with you. That's a whole different episode. So was there something when you were in the organization that just made you go, you know what, I'm out, or was it just kind of a gradual decline or something?
Um, it was one rally in particular. They had some guy befriend a young Mexican dude and bring him out to a rally, and they proceeded to nearly beat him to death. Um, and that was the point where I was like, yeah, yeah, no, this isn't. That's not anything I want to be involved with. I ended up calling the police out there to that one. Um, They didn't find out I did that, luckily. But yeah, I mean, that might have been the only thing that saved that dude's life. Um,
Wow. Okay.
so yeah,
That's
I was just at a point where that they had ramped up to a point where I couldn't be even around it. Like I never wanted to be violent or hurt people. That was never a thing that was on my agenda. I just wanted my life to be better, and they said this was the way to do it, minus the violence. And then the violence started, and I'm like, that's not what you said, man. That's not the way to do it. I don't get it,
So they
so
never
I'm not with it.
they, they never really mentioned the violence part to you. I mean,
Uh,
up until that
the
point.
the official stance is, again, we can't control what individual members do, so we don't promote or condone violence. But at the same time, when some guy does goes out and does something, they will turn around and praise them. So while you're not just coming straight out and saying, "Hey, do violent things," you are praising the people who do violent things as, basically like martyrs, and making others want to do that. So it is a form of incitement in and of itself.
So that just seems like that something that brazen doesn't seem like something they would do, or at least do like on a regular basis. I mean, if they're trying to maintain some sort of veneer of civility or something.
And see, that's the bigger thing. There's the foot soldier jackasses that go out and they do these violent acts and things. And then there's the organizational leaders that are playing the end game, and they kind of need the foot soldiers out there doing this dumb shit, so they can fly under the radar. Because if everybody's looking at the guy who's out here stabbing people on the fucking train, they're not really looking at the guys who are out here getting multiple judges and sheriffs and district attorneys elected in county after county after state in this country.
Well,
You know,
yeah, I've always said that the ones you see on the outside aren't the ones I'm worried about. The ones I mean, if you're obviously you're in the middle of it, but I
yeah.
mean, the ones I worry about more are the ones that are kind of under the radar, like you just said, the ones that are trying to get people elected, trying to get people in power, trying to kind of grip things from that angle. And then you have the brown shirts, basically, is what they are. The brown shirts kind of distracting attention from the other shit that's going on over here. It's kind of a sleight of hand thing.
Yeah, and then there's two levels of the brown shirts too, because you have the guys out here going to these rallies who their purpose isn't to actually incite violence. I know, like, people like Gavin McGinnis and shit, like the Proud Boys and all that shit. Like, yeah, those guys are trying to incite violence, but there's sort of a subgroup within that who aren't there to actually try and incite violence. What they're there to do is to rebrand and put a smiling, acceptable face on Nazism, and it's working in spades. I mean, people are just like, oh, well, everybody you fucking disagree with is a Nazi now. Oh, I'm going to go hang out with these people. And, like, yeah, those are Nazis. And then they're like, well, yeah, but they're all about free speech. Like, until they get in power,
Yeah.
and then they're going to murder everybody. Like, I don't, where's your brain, homie? I don't know. But it's
Well,
working, It's Richard Spencer and his fucking alt right and all this other fuck shit. The IDW, the intellectual
oh,
dark web, like, it's
you think
full
that?
of fucking racist Nazis, and they don't get it. They're just like, I don't know. These people are all about free speech. It's just free speech shit. And, like, no, those are fucking fascists and Nazis, homie. Like, I
You
don't.
really think? You really think the ID? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying. It's kind of like a gateway drug, and I've heard the argument made. But I don't think they're fucking that aware. They're that fucking aware of what they're doing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like they're so narcissistic that they don't even fucking know what they're used as tools for these people. I might be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that it's an intentional thing, at least not with most of them. I mean, there's a couple of them I'm kind of questionable about, but for most of them, Jordan Peterson and fucking Shapiro and Shapiro's a goddamn idiot, okay?
He's just
But
just
yeah, but he promotes people with terrible fucking ideas, and then he
look.
has like this sort of quick wit in mock debate where he can just flip shit, and then people go, "Oh, he's so good," and like, no, he's not. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, Richard Spencer is somebody you brought up. And yeah, he's definitely a guy that, he's one that the famous punch a Nazi, that's where that whole thing came from. You
Hmm.
know, he's the dude they punched or whatever. And guys like that, yeah, when they're blatant, kind of blatantly like that, but like there's that guy in Britain, what's his name? Britain First, or what's his fucking name? I know a couple. He's like the dude over there who's like Richard Spencer. I can't remember his fucking. But he's always, it's like a lot of those guys you've heard the milkshaking thing over there in Britain or whatever, where
Yeah.
they're basically milkshaking these alt right guys like Nigel Farage over there in England, trying to the UKIP or whatever party, which is thinly veiled fucking nationalist bullshit. Not even
Yep.
that thin.
It's very thin. It's a very thin veneer.
Yeah. So those kind of people right there, those are the ones I worry about the most when they're, especially in Europe. There's a lot of that going on. Nationalism is making a big comeback,
Yep.
and of course, it's brown people. What else? It's always the brown people. Jesus, they're so
Yeah.
fucking terrified. Here, it's Mexicans, Central Americans. Over there, it's refugees from Africa, or well, yeah, Sub-Saharan and Northern Africa, and the Middle East. So it's the same script, you know.
I mean, there are some valid fucking grievances, uh, especially within Europe and places like Germany, with um, some of the things that have happened with mass immigration. There are some valid fucking grievances. They don't have to be fucking racist. Okay, that's the real issue there. There's some valid grievances with immigration. It doesn't have to be racist, and you don't have to state those grievances in a way that demeans or demoralizes any other people. You can just state the grievances, and try to work on those in a healthy and productive manner. Not like, oh, we got to get rid of these people because shit's just not working out. Well, no, you need to try and work with people to figure out how everybody can work together.
Well,
Um,
yeah, they use that as an excuse. I mean, there, like you said, there are legitimate grievances. There are, I mean, more European countries do more than others as far as, as far as helping out immigrants or the system itself. But I mean, yeah, you can take care of that. There are racist elements who take advantage of that situation and push for, nationalism, extreme nationalism, and just keep everybody out.
well, and that's kind of where we've come to the point of how divisive politics have become in the United States right now, because it did get to a point where, hey, Trump is supported by fucking Nazis. So if you support Trump, you're supporting Nazis. And a lot of people are like, I don't support Nazis. I'm not a fucking racist, but I'm sick of this other bullshit. I have valid fucking grievances, and this guy said he's going to fix my grievances. And it's just like, now you're lumped in with them because you associated with them, and that might not be what you're about, but that's who you're with. And so now I kind of have to look at you and go, you're a piece of shit, man. Like, I
Yeah,
understand your valid grievances, but you went about it the wrong way, man. That was not the right answer. So like, we're all at a sort of a crossroad and a divide here, where it's just like, I'm not giving up on my ethics just to be polite to you in politics.
yeah. The whole thing with Trump, it's like you. I've heard it put this way. I may be paraphrasing. You may not be racist, but the fact that you don't mind somebody being racist to get elected means you're just as bad for it. I mean, if that's not a deal breaker for you, right? Of
Yeah.
course, I would argue that if you really are racist, even though you say you're not, if you
Well,
do,
I
yeah,
like the line Cory Booker said against his opponent when he was running down there in Florida. He said, "I'm not saying you're a racist. I'm just saying that the racists think you're racist." It's like, yeah, man. I'm not saying you're a Nazi. I'm just saying the Nazis think you're a fucking Nazi. So we
yeah.
have a
I
problem.
mean, of course, Trump is just so far. I mean, his narcissism is world class. I've never seen anybody just so willing to fucking throw everything to the side just to keep his image clean, no matter what. You
And it's
know,
not though. That's the worst part. Like, he doesn't realize it. I don't. Well, I don't know that he realizes it, but his image is shit. Like his failures are his mark, not any successes he's had. His failed ass steaks, his failed ass fucking casinos, his failed ass businesses. Those are his fucking legacy. That's what we all fucking remember. Unless you're just got your fucking head stuck up Trump's ass, that's what most of us remember. This guy's a huge fucking failure as a businessman and a terrible human being who is a misogynistic piece of shit and a narcissistic asshole. Like that's your legacy, buddy, and I don't know what you're trying to keep from getting tarnished. It's hard to get more tarnished.
I feel like you're underselling him because you just called him misogynist. But he's a misogynist, racist, ableist,
Yeah,
xenophobic,
I mean, there's no
classist.
limit to
I mean, just
the yeah. His depravity
I
knows
mean,
very little bounds.
just whatever he needs to do to fucking get what he wants. That's all it boils down to.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like
and
I don't even necessarily think Trump is necessarily himself a fucking racist or any of those other things. I think he is an opportunist, and he is an
yeah,
opportunist with no ethical center and no moral compass whatsoever. So anything that provides him with a potential opportunity, he jumps on that shit quick. And you know, anybody that had even a decent ethical or moral center would say, all right, I'm gonna be an opportunist, but there's some shit I just can't be involved with because that's gonna be really bad. But not him. He doesn't have that bit of introspection to go, maybe there should be a limit.
no, he doesn't care.
But
But
I think that's how he grew up. He grew up with the mindset that there are no limits. You can get away with whatever the fuck you want. Your daddy's rich as shit. He'll buy your way out of anything. There's no limits for you. Do what you fucking want. Be an opportunist. It doesn't matter who you associate with, because you're gonna get what you want. You can't. You're untouchable. And that's what
yeah,
he's grown up his whole life thinking. I'm untouchable. I'm just gonna do what I want.
he's the poster child for entitlement. Really.
Yeah. And we have a government system right now that is not going to fucking hold him accountable. It's
Oh no.
not. I see so many of my friends out here, that my liberal and Democrat friends, and they're just like, oh man, when the Senate finally gets around and the House finally gets around to doing stuff, like, yeah, he's in trouble. And I've been hearing he's in trouble for 4 years almost. And it's like, no, he's not in trouble. Our
Yeah.
government is not going to do their job. They're not. We cannot trust them. We cannot rely on them to do their job. If we could, he would never have been allowed to become president, ever.
Well,
That's, I mean, that is what the fucking electoral college is for, to prevent that fuck shit.
I don't.
Right?
I don't know if that's. I don't even think we should have it, and I don't know that that would have happened regardless. But at the very least, the Congress shouldn't be kissing his ass constantly.
Yeah.
You know. And Mitch McConnell, sure as fuck, of course, he's that way anyway. He's
Uh,
fucking Machiavellian. That's the motherfucker I worry about
yeah.
more than
Yeah. I'm,
Trump.
I'm far more worried. And I mean, I know you've seen it on Facebook with my posts and stuff, but like the past several years, I keep telling folks, like, yeah, the president is shit. Like, Trump is horrible. We do need to get rid of him. But fucking Christ, man, we have midterm elections. You guys get out and fucking vote. And when it comes time for presidential elections, don't just come out to vote for fucking president, man. Our Congress and Senate needs some fucking work. God damn. We're all going to just smother and drown if we don't fix Congress. Congress needs fixing. The
Yeah.
president can't do shit if Congress was doing their job correctly. It doesn't matter what the president wants to do. Congress
Well,
would fucking check him.
he's testing it. He sure as fuck is testing with all the subpoenas. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just not going to give it to you. Fuck you. That's when you got to send in the U.S. Marshals and get the shit. That's what it boils down to.
I mean, I'd like to send in the U.S. Marshals to take his ass to prison.
Well,
What I'm hoping for, though, is the state of New York sending his kids to prison.
that would be great. Well,
That's what I'm hoping for.
they actually like passed a law. They made a loophole in the existing law regarding double jeopardy just for him, so they could fucking get his ass if he ever tries to if he gets out of federal charges because of a pardon. They're
Yeah.
trying to. I'm like, okay, you do because that's his base of operations or whatever. You know, the feeling I have is it's the best thing we have going for us is that he's so incompetent that he has managed to not get that much done. I mean, yes, he's done some damage, but I would argue most of that stuff's reversible fairly quickly.
Well,
Um,
except for the judges, because he's put in a
yeah,
shit ton of federal judges, and it's not just Supreme Court. Like, there's so many federal
yeah,
judges got put in by them.
and that does bother me. But I think I mean, and the judiciary does have a level of professionalism, right? So even the
Mostly,
most,
but we're seeing people like William Barr, come up in
oh,
there.
that,
So
yes, him, yes. He needs to be, I don't know, you can impeach people like that. I don't know how the fuck you would do it. But that motherfucker, read his history. That
oh
motherfucker
yeah,
is, he was in fucking involved in Iran Contra and shit. I mean, this isn't his first go around. He knows what the
no,
fuck he.
yeah. Trump picks people that he knows have already been involved in some dastardly shit before and don't have any qualms about getting into it again.
Yeah, Barr is. I'm more worried about Barr. That motherfucker. He does not give a fuck. And I don't know what he's got on Lindsey Graham. Well, he's more of a fucking barking dog. He doesn't really. I mean, he has power, but he's just more of kind of his lap Congress.
Yeah, yeah. Graham doesn't have a lot of shit, and fucking hopefully McConnell will die soon. And I generally
Oh,
don't wish death upon people, but yeah, fuck that dude, man. I hope
oh
he
no,
gets asshole cancer and dies. Like, I'm so sick of him.
he is pure. So I mean, he's got no soul. I mean, I'm an atheist, so obviously I don't believe in a soul anyway. But I mean, he has no qualms about doing anything, and he knows how to pull it off. He's Machiavellian as fuck. He knows how to work government to his advantage, right? So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it's person after person in this orbit in government, and it's not just Republican. I'm gonna go ahead and state that real quick. This is not just a Republican problem. There are plenty of issues with Democrats too. But yeah, most of these people do not have an ethical center or an ethical, a moral compass, man, and so they just do, and hope they get away with it. And when they don't get away with it, they get to go sit at a country club for a year or two. It's like, come on, man. There's no reprisal. There's no real punishment. They don't feel like they're gonna have anything really seriously bad happen to them, so they just do. It's Republicans and Democrats alike are all bought by fucking corporations for the most part. There's a handful that aren't, but for the most part, they're all bought by corporations. Corporations are running this fucking country. If I had known at 15 what I know now, I would have never got involved with the group I got involved with, and instead, I would have fucking started attacking our fucking corporate oligarchy system the way I am now. Because that's the real problem. That's the problem. I didn't see it when I was a kid. I fucking see it now as an adult in the fucking real world, working a regular job, trying to feed my family and shit. No, I see it now. It's very fucking clear. Minorities, gay folks, other folks, they are not my fucking problem. My problem is corporations sucking the life out of the working class in this country. That's the
oh
problem.
yeah, oh yeah, it's always been a divide and conquer strategy. It's always been a way for it to keep the poor people down, fighting against each other instead of if they don't want them to band together. That's why they hate unions, because they might actually realize the richer, the wealthier, the powerful are the ones that are fucking everybody. You know, they're the
Yeah.
real cause of shit, right?
I mean, I've gotten to a point in my life where I've started talking to people, and then they start talking about uh, um, capitalism and stuff, and then I've started asking some very simple questions like, under whose authority can one man say that he owns a piece of dirt? Under whose authority? The government's? How does the government have the authority to do that? They don't. Who has the authority to say that one man can own a shit ton of resources on this planet? Nobody. Nobody has that authority. So why does he get to do it? Well, it's because we still live by some sort of weird goddamn caveman dib structure where a motherfucker can just roll up on something and go dibs and then punch everybody in the face around them or shoot them in the face and go, okay, it's mine now. Fuck y'all. And I feel like we should be a little more civilized than that because there's no authority that says that you should be able to just take shit like that, that you should be able to own dirt. How are you going to own it after you're dead? Like, how do
Oh,
you
yeah.
own dirt?
Well,
I
that's
don't get
a
it.
it's a short-term thinking. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I know it's a very simplistic way to look at it, but in the end, it's the most ethical way to look at it. Like there's enough dirt for everybody. Why do some people not have a little piece of dirt where they're have a roof over their head, clothes, and food to eat? I
It's
mean,
greed. It's becoming
it's doable, and like I figured out, like I don't want to be rich. I've started my own media company. I've written and published my own books, and I'm not getting rich off that. And even if it was to a point where I was bringing in loads of money, I don't want to fucking be rich. I'm going to use that to do stuff to help other people. I don't fucking want it. About $7,500 a year is all I fucking need to take care of me and my family and for us to live happily. And that's all I fucking want. More than that, it's just going to bring more problems. So
yeah, more money, more
and
problems.
and the bigger understanding for me at this point is in order for me to have more than I need, someone else has to go without. If
Yeah,
I
that's a
just
good
have
one.
what I need, somebody else doesn't have to go without. And I'd rather people not go without. I'd rather not be the cause of why people go without. I
Yeah,
actually feel an ethical uh, emotion within me about that. Like that feels hurtful if I'm the one causing somebody to go without food or shelter or clothing. If I'm the one causing a child not to eat for the night, yeah, I have an ethical center that tells me that I should feel bad about that. And I don't want it. I don't want that shit. And I don't think anybody else should want it. I don't know how to change the mindset of people who already have it to say, yeah, man, you don't need that. So it's a hard row to hoe, but I'm gonna keep pushing.
so kind of getting back to the roots, kind of looping back around. As far as what can we do? Kind of, do you think to defeat this whole, I guess, this whole surge of white supremacy or whatever? What are some of the things you think we can do?
So one of the bigger issues we run into um, when this all started, and we'll go all the way back to the Richard Spencer punching issue and stuff. Um, and that became a sort of free speech issue. This guy should be able to go out on the streets and say whatever the fuck he wants, and nobody should assault him or anything like that. Um, and I agree with that in the sense of violence. We don't that you shouldn't go out and intentionally just seek out to be violent towards someone like that. However, um, I do believe that each of us as individuals need to stand up to go when we know they're having these rallies. We've got to go. We've got to show up, and we've got to stop them. We've got to be louder than them. We've got to let them know they're not fucking welcome. Um, because I don't want the government going in here and censoring people. I don't want the government fucking saying, "Hey, you can't say this." Um, yeah, I mean, to some extent, there are some things I wish the government would fucking step up their game on, as far as like what they consider incitement. Like when a pastor goes out and tells this whole congregation that fucking Planned Parenthood doctors are killing babies and that they deserve to die, and then one of their parishioners goes out and kills some doctors. Like, yeah, that's fucking incitement, and I think our government should do a better job in saying exactly that is incitement, and the pastor should be held accountable. Um, but as far as like well, can somebody go out and fucking have a bunch of group of people get together holding tiki torches and go, "We will not be replaced. Jews will not replace us," and blood and soil? Like, yeah, they should be allowed to do that, but we should be there in their faces, telling them, "Hey, our government's not going to stop you, but we will. This is our fucking neighborhood. These are our lives. You're not welcome here." Um, if you let them know they're not welcome, they will tone it down. As far as actually defeating white supremacy,
Well,
it's
I don't have any illusions
It,
of that, but
yeah, it's a veritable impossibility because the unfortunate reality is you cannot kill ideas. They're indestructible. Ideas will live forever.
it's going to
What
get
you,
worse, I think.
yeah, what you can do is you can fight ideas, you can stand against ideas, you can promote better ideas. And I don't mean that in the sense of these IDW assholes who are like, we should debate all Nazis because you defeat them with better ideas. No, we don't need to debate Nazism. That was debated in fucking
Yeah,
1940 and it's over with. That debate is fucking over. I don't need to have a
yeah,
debate on whether certain groups of people are less human than me. So that debate's not going to happen. But
yeah, yeah,
it's just not. I'm not going to debate a fucking Nazi. What are we going to debate? The merits of Nazism? There are none. There's zero. Debate over. But
yeah,
yeah, but we do need to give people better, especially the youth, especially through education. We need to educate people and say, hey, these are the problems that cause economic issues. These are the problems that cause violence and crime. These are the problems that cause poverty. And it is not on one race and it is not on one group of people and it is not on these specific individuals. It is a much bigger problem that is a very intricate and detailed problem that requires a lot of in depth thought and a lot of work to fix. But people need to be educated on that early so that they don't get pulled in by, oh, yeah, well, it's that guy's fault that your life is not good. And unless that guy that he's pointing at is the CEO of some fucking major corporation, then he's wrong. If he's pointing at some Mexican dude who happens to be an illegal immigrant, he's wrong. That dude's not the reason your life isn't great. That dude is just trying to have a better life. His life probably isn't that great either. It may be better than it was where he came from, but it ain't. I mean, it's not what he wants it to be. He's just trying to have a better life too. And if you're pointing at the CEOs and shit, you're right. Then you're right. Those are the people causing the problems. But
education.
yeah, we've got to educate people. That is my key area of focus right now as far as my activism goes. Education from the ground up. If I had the funding to do it, because of the way that the education system has gone at a federal level recently, I would be setting up secular charter schools in every state that I possibly could. And that would be where I put my focus. Secular education through charter schools that are allowed to use vouchers. Let's get these kids in here and let's give them a real fucking education. And that
Yeah.
that doesn't. I know that any sort of conservatives that hear that would go, oh yeah, you just want to indoctrinate them with your liberal bias and shit. And like, no, man, I just want to indoctrinate them with facts and
Oh,
the
fuck that.
ability to fucking think, the ability to think for themselves. I've got two boys of my own, and I'm their first teacher. They know that. They've learned more from me than they ever will from school because the first thing I taught them was how to think, not what to think, how to examine things, how to look at them logically, how to weigh out facts, how to tell the difference between a fact and some bullshit. And these are the things you got to get going early in order for people not to fall prey to bullshit later on.
Right. All right, Casper. Casper, I got it right this time. um, Thanks for coming on. It's been actually very enlightening, and I gotta say, I'm glad that you got out of that, and I'm glad that you got out well, relatively unscathed, not completely, maybe, but
um, I am I am morally and ethically scarred
oh, really?
for that time. Um, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you only fucking rage so much against this shit because you used to be a part of it, and you're trying to fucking make amends." And like, yeah, you're 100% right. 100% right. Yes, I am making amends. I'll never be able to though. That's the thing I understand. I can never make it right, but I can work to try and make sure that it doesn't continue.
And I admire that. I actually really do. I think that's great. Um, did you say you had something you wanted to plug?
Yeah, I'd like to let your listeners know that I have started a media publishing firm called Anti-Social Media. We handle authors, musicians, and indie filmmakers, all independent, authors, musicians, and filmmakers. Um, and basically, what we do is we'll get your media out there on our platform and help you distribute it, help you do the production work, like really get your stuff out there. All the things that it's hard for a self-published person to figure out and do. I've been doing this for several years now, so I know the ropes, I know the ins and outs, and I would love to have people who want to get their stuff done, but they're not sure how to do it. Come to me, let me help you. The fee structure is very, very reasonable. It's probably the best in the industry for what I offer. So, um, anybody who's interested, if you've got a book idea out there or something along those lines, some music you want to get promoted and you'd like to be involved on a label that you can actually feel proud to be involved with, because I'm very thorough in vetting the people who will be involved in this organization. And there will be none of the bullshit that we in our general circles will tolerate. So none of the homophobia, transphobia, fucking racism, none of that shit will be welcome.
You and
Um,
your fucking SJW. Why don't you just rename it
right?
SJW label?
I thought about it, honestly. I thought about SJW Media just to piss off the fucking Republicans, but no.
I'm just for shit.
I felt like anti-social media was appropriate because it's sort of anti-social media, not necessarily anti-social media. So like I'm kind of, social media has been a fucking great thing and a terrible thing all at once, and I want to offer something that's a little bit more geared towards what media should be, I think, and what media could be, at least within the secular SJW realm or whatever.
It is my prefer. Yes. All right, dude. Well, I'll put your links up on the post, of course, when I post this episode. Uh, Again, thanks for coming on. You've given me a lot of information. I feel like you've given my listeners slash viewers, nobody watches it hardly, but my listeners a lot of information going forward, what they can do to deal with some of this stuff, and
Yeah.
and
Well, it's
and
been
it's a
a pleasure to be on, and I'm always happy to talk about these issues or any of the other issues that I deal with in my activism, or just any issues in general. I like talking. Um, so always happy to do this for my friends and anybody else who wants to have a discussion about it. I'm always happy to.
all right, man. Well, take care.
All right. You have a great night, sir.